Hello, everybody. This is Real Men Talk Shit. I'm going to do an intro afterwards. And this week we have Johnny Ramirez from 60 Days In, I believe season four or season three?
Four.
Four. Uh, he was one of the castmates that seems like he wasn't given his fair shake. And we're going to get into that because I think that was utter bullshit. Um, but your story was super, super interesting to me because of number one, you had one of the more interesting stories, very similar to Abner from season five, where you had that, like, I don't want to say gangster past, but you had that history of dealing with actual law enforcement before you went into jail, which was super, super interesting because so many people, including people in your season, such as Matt, have no experience at all in that realm. So it was super, super interesting when you have people like you and then Matt in the same season, where you guys kind of have that intersection of you have a lot of experience, he has no experience, and it kind of makes everything a little confusing and muddy. You know what I'm saying?
Right. And I think that dynamic helped us because I would walk Matt through some certain things that you do and you don't do. And there was this, like, for instance, let's just say with this one episode where Bucci gets up and does the Black Lives Matter thing, and that's something that you don't do. You don't do that kind of stuff because it wasn't about a Black Lives Matter. It was about a game related issue, and you don't do that kind of stuff at that point. And I get what Bucci was doing because he was, understanding that, like, us brothers and sisters cannot be fighting with each other. But in his case, that wasn't almost like the right time to do that. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
with Matt, you got to kind of like understand him where, you let them be the gang members they got to be, and you can't really be a father figure at that moment. You can pull them off to the side in a certain way, but not at that moment. You can't do that. Or you can't complain about the littlest things because to them, that ain't nothing.
Yeah.
And as far as
Definitely.
Matt, he taught me a lot of stuff about his community and how his world works where I don't understand. So then that's why me and Matt got along so well.
Well, that's what made it super interesting, and that's what I try and do with this show is kind of bring on differing opinions, whether people want to talk or not. That's completely up to them. But having different opinions and different thoughts on life and different experiences is what makes everything super, super interesting. If you're talking to all the same people that have the same opinions and ideologies and all that stuff, then what are you really doing? You're not really affecting anybody. You're not really helping anybody. You're not changing any lives. You're just having a conversation with like-minded people.
Correct.
So, what really kind of made your choice to go into 60 Days In?
I have, if a lot of people don't understand, I have I have a Johnny Jr. that went into prison. He got locked up for second degree murder. And he happened to be in a situation where he didn't pull the trigger. He just was a driver, and his best friend is the one that died, and he ended up doing time for his death. And Arizona law kind of states that if anybody had that same in that same circle gets caught, they do that time. So that's why I did it. I wanted to kind of walk his walk, understand, like, just kind of understand how he feels in there, because I'd never been in jail, and
Yeah.
this was his first time. So I wanted to try it because I wanted to understand his walk. How is it really lonely in there? Is it sad in there? Is it really the way it is that all my homeboys used to talk about? Is it in there?
Yeah.
Stuff like that. So
Well, that's what was super, super interesting, which is why you were one of the first people I messaged was they kind of portrayed it as you kind of did the same kind of stuff that your son did and kind of had the very similar experiences. So hearing it firsthand from you makes it super, super interesting because they didn't show that. They didn't sit there and kind of explore. They walked you through your hometown, I think, in like one little clip of the season,
right.
but they didn't really explain or tell what was going on or why you wanted to do it other than, oh yeah, my son's dealing with this. He made the same choices as me, and then you were gone the rest of the season essentially. They let it be the Matt show, and in all honesty, my opinion was you were the person that could have made that season explode.
Correct. And by saying that, it just seems like it just seems that there was a lot more than that, but it's just that it's what A&E wants to put together, I guess. And they did show a lot of me interacting with a lot of inmates and everything, but they didn't. I wasn't, I guess, interesting enough. I was just low key. I already knew what to do, what to expect. Um, just from my experience of my gang life and my homeboys and everybody talking shit and everybody doing the shit that they do, I already knew how to handle shit. Um, do you mind if I cuss or not? I don't know.
No, go ahead. The name of the podcast is Real Men Talk Shit, and
Yeah,
obviously,
yeah, I know.
some people don't
So
enjoy that. But I'm a New Yorker, so I just talk however the fuck I please. And if
yeah,
somebody doesn't enjoy it, somebody doesn't enjoy it, and I understand it's not for everybody.
yeah. I'm a potty mouth, so I try not to be, but so either way, I just don't. I just they didn't touch down on my gang life as much. They didn't walk. I didn't have the exposure, but at this point, I along right when I got out and I first saw the show, I didn't care if I had the exposure or not because to me it just seems like what I done in there is what matters and without the camera. So, you know, let it be. I know what I did and but as far as my gang life, I mean, if they would have touched down more on that, and they would have touched down the real shit that they should have touched down on. That even like a lot of that Matt did, a lot that Nate did, a lot that even Bucci did. They would have seen the real of what we did, and not the drama, and they would have seen how much caring and how much heart that we took into that program, and and they didn't show that. So that's a sad thing, but whatever, entertainment, A&E stands for that. And I'm not gonna bash A&E. It's just that's if they're gonna put that story together, let them put the story together.
It's super weird when you have a season that comes after yours. And I know you don't want to go super deep into this, but somebody who had a very, very similar story as yours, they portray his story completely. And to me, it's just like you had that story already. You had that story wide open right in front of you that you had the opportunity to tell and you didn't. And that was a crazy thing was you had your son in there as well, which was the step farther than what Abner did.
Yeah, I mean, the difference between me and Abner, and again, I won't bash Abner or do anything because I like Abner. It's just the fact that I had my son in jail. He's Abner actually did prison time and then did all that stuff. So um, he Abner understood exactly what to expect. And when me and my son that went in didn't understand that. So for Abner to go back in, he already kind of knew, he kind of had a foot in the door already, if you will, and just kind of understood it. So you kind of like have experience. This is it's gonna be pretty easy to go through. I mean, it ain't nothing. I mean, jail ain't nothing. He's been done that. Even though he lived a good life and he changed his life to Christ, it's still experience. Like if you were to put me in gang life right now, I still have it, but physically I don't. But mentally, I do. It's what it is. I could turn it off and on, and so it's easy for him. So I think that I'll just leave it at that.
Oh, definitely. I completely understand where you're coming from. And that's why I kind of wanted to ask that was there is that parity there and there's that complete conversation. I do have to apologize though. I do need to go check on my daughter. She's whining quite a bit and she's been
That's fine.
sick all day. I apologize. I know you're on a time crunch. I'm sorry. I'm pausing the recording. It'll stop in
Okay.
3, 2, 1. So, obviously, with everything that's gone on and everything else, how is your son doing? Because that part of your story was super, super heartbreaking to me because I did deal with that stuff. And I grew up in a group of friends that was very, very bad off and struggled with drugs. And even one of us ended up being put in jail for, I don't, I think it was accessory to murder. He went into jail for. And I was or murder. I don't know exactly where he was placed, but with me being the only one that made it out without doing drugs, without doing anything, so it's super interesting to hear. How is your son doing?
My son's doing okay. He's been good ever since he's been in. He works in there, and he stays to his own business, and we email each other, and especially during COVID, we can't really see each other, but we video, or we'll write each other. So we've been okay. We try to understand each other more, just because sometimes, even as a young man in prison, he still needs his father, and he still needs a role model. So, and he's becoming a man himself, so he's just trying to handle things the right way. And when he already knows right from wrong from when he was growing up, he still has to deal with that inside without family support. Just only what he remembers. You know what I mean?
Well, morality is also different in there. You
Right.
know, which is super weird, because I asked Mark, I said, if you could have changed the gang problems that were in that jail, whether they were real or not, would you have sat to try and push the race problems and try and help them? Because obviously the people that were the heads of your pods didn't help that. So is there a way where you can innately try and help these people, which you're not just helping the jail at that point, you're helping the people that are in there that are trying to do better for themselves? Is there any way to innately try and change that? Because I think, personally, me, I blend in with everybody. I talk and I'm open, and I'll talk to anybody. I'll hang out with anybody. I just wonder if there was anything that you could have done, or anybody could have did, to actually help the race and gang problems that are in jail.
Well, you got to look at it this way, and this goes for gangs, this goes for race, this goes for everything that you could think of. Shit can change overnight, bro.
Yeah.
The shit can change overnight. They've been doing slavery for 400 years. They've been doing gang members for over 100 something years. They've been doing so many things for years. You can't change overnight.
No,
We are
definitely.
there. We are there to do an undercover experiment to see why the correction officers are doing wrong. We are not there to change it. We cannot make a big fuss because we didn't get a razor blade, or we didn't get soap, or we didn't get shampoo, or we didn't get uh, anything changed right there and then. You can't complain. You got to just take your information, sit back, and then you tell it to the sheriff at the end of the season. You can't change it right there and then. You can't become the problem right there and then. You got to take the information that you're supposed to do, like they told you what your job is, and you take it to the sheriff, and you tell them, here, this is your problem, this is what you do, this is what, if take it as you will, but that's what you do. But you can't change it right there. What you can change, or what you can do, is feed these young cats by themselves, and just talk to them like regular human beings, and just tell them, hey,
Yeah.
brother, it's probably not best that you keep hanging around with these guys, because these guys are bad news. You're a good guy. You know, these guys don't want to change, but I can see the change in you. And these are a lot of conversations I had with, like, Tebow, the guys in my seasons. A lot of guys that are like, hey, bro, you're a good leader. Maybe you just kind of, did this and that. And that's how you kind of get them one-on-one, and almost like planting the seed. Like, if you plant a seed to and let it grow, that's what you do, and you let the other person water. It's like planting a seed in a religious way. You plant the seed if you want people to know about Jesus, and then you plant it, and then Jesus will water it, and then he'll grow to him. But it's almost the same thing. You got to kind of plant it, and just hopefully that it will get to him, because you're not going to do it right there and then. And a lot of these people, a lot of these cats don't understand it. They tried to change it right there and then,
Yeah.
and it's, you can't cry. So what you're doing when you cry and when you get mad, you become the problem, because you're yelling at the seals, you're pissed off at the seals because they don't get you your shampoo, or they don't get you this and that. You can't cry about it. It's going to take time. It's been happening for decades. Why do you think because you're on a TV show, you're going to change it right there and then? Nah.
That's what I thought was super interesting, is you're not going to change the COs and the facility itself while you're there, but you can, like, having conversations with people, you can innately not only feel change in yourself, but you can then enact that change on an individual basis and try and help these people that may or may not have had that guidance, whether that's a father figure or not. And
Right.
that's what's crazy to me is like all these people sit here and go into these things and just hang out or just sit there and agitate and all that stuff. And it's super interesting when you genuinely see people that want to interact, whether that's Nate or you or Matt, even to an extent, and or even Abner, who did it incorrectly, but like just interacting and trying to affect these people, whether you're doing it the wrong way or the right way, is completely indifferent. But it's just super interesting to me because that's who I am. When I was working at the last place I was working, I was seen as the leader. I was everybody called me dad. That's how I'm portrayed. And like it's super interesting to me. I don't know if I look at the world differently or what, but that's me. I try and help those people. I try and affect what they're doing with their life and kind of lead them in the right direction instead of just yesing people to death because in the grand scheme of things, regardless if that person's mad at me or not, what I say might help.
Correct. Yeah, if it affects one person, you're going to help somebody because it's a trickle effect. It's going to help that next person. He's going to help that next person, and that's how leaders become leaders. And it's okay to be a follower because you got to learn how to be a leader by following. So it trickles. It's a trickle effect. So yeah, you're right, and that's good for you.
Yeah, and it's just so frustrating when people don't see it like that, when they don't
Right.
want to enact change, whether that's positive change or negative change. It's irrelevant. If you're trying to change the way that things are right now, then you're going to impact what's going to happen tomorrow. If you have kids and you're not trying to impact what's happening tomorrow, then you're not really a man if you think about it, because you're not trying to lead and change and provide better for your family. You're keeping everything the status quo, whether you're doing okay or not. You're not making the right choice in that situation.
Right, and that's why in a lot of my speaking engagements, I do say what you do today will affect your tomorrow. Either it's good or bad. What you do today will affect your tomorrow. If you do good, it's going to come out good. If you do bad, it's going to come out bad. What you do today is going to affect your tomorrow. So you got to understand. You got to keep giving your best, or you can keep giving your worst, but you can't expect a good outcome if you do your worst. You know what I mean? So
You can't complain about the outcomes if you don't expect what they're going to be. You got
right,
to be 3 steps ahead. If you're not thinking 3 steps ahead, then you're going to go into everything blind.
right, correct.
So obviously, there's been major problems with 60 days in and mental health and everything else. How did you deal mental health wise within the system? Obviously, I think Matt definitely struggled with some mental health issues while he was in, and there's been a lot of people before him that quit even beforehand when they were in holding cells and stuff like that. I think probably due to anxiety and stuff like that. Did you struggle with mental health? Did you deal with mental health properly? How were you dealing with that stuff while you were in?
So mental health, they do give you between seasons, and a lot of people don't know this, but between mental health, they do give you a psychiatrist. They bring in as a fake camera crew, and she's actually a psychiatrist, and she's in there talking to you and try to make you understand and help you release some of the stress or whatever. Um, and she did that a lot. She was awesome. But mental health for me was I'm a depressed person. I'm diagnosed as a seasonal depression person, and I do take pills. And the first week that I was in there, maybe a week and a half, I actually was going to kill myself. I was going to hang myself, or I was going to hit myself on the floor where I just bleed out because the guards didn't come in, or they didn't care, they didn't check on you. So because they couldn't give me my pills, and with the depression hitting so hard because the environment I was in already, and with the stress, it was definitely the hardest thing probably. So when people say they tap out, I was going to tap out the first week,
Yeah,
and it was just that hard. And 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 the anxiety, I don't understand because I don't have anxiety, but I do have depression. A lot of people say that's two things together. I don't believe in that because I think anxiety is a different animal. But depression was hard, and they never got my medicine right. They gave me another type of medicine that didn't work for me.
Yeah.
before in my past when I was working here. When I used to try to find out which medicine was perfect for me for my depression. So when I tried that one, it didn't work for me, but I had to take something because I'm gonna die. You know what I'm saying? So, and at that point, my doctor's ready to pull me out and get me out of there because they couldn't get it right. So, and that was the sad thing. That's why the sheriff wanted me in there, because they wanted to see how their medication is going to take factor in there and how quick they get the medication. And they found out that it didn't work. But they didn't show that, of course. They didn't show that. They didn't show that part in A&E or 6 days in season 4. They didn't show that their medication or their hospital wise thing didn't work out in there. They
No,
didn't show
they were more worried about showing how the women were cheeking pills and
right.
sharing them and making
Right. And,
candy out
I
of
mean
them.
that, and that's part of it too. I mean, they didn't see him swallow it and this and that, and they didn't. So that is part of it too. But they were more into that drama than just regular, like the real problems behind the scenes. The real sad things and stuff.
Yeah, and it's super sad because you would think that mental health would be one of the first things that they portray, whether they can actually genuinely get you to talk or just show how much you're shutting down, or kind of just how you slowly change in how you interact and stuff like that. Mental health is a spectrum, and so many people don't want to understand that or don't understand that. There's 50 medications for each individual illness, and you're probably going to end up trying all of them just to find the one that helps you the littlest bit. And that's what's so hard is literally, I believe on the 14th, this episode, not this episode, but the next episode I record is being released. I'm telling my entire suicide attempt story with the mental health comedian. And we're going to go super in depth on mental health and try and get some people some help and try and bring some positivity into such a negative situation. And hopefully everybody goes and checks out that episode as well. If you come and hang out with Johnny here, make sure to check out that episode because it's going to be super hard to listen to, and I completely understand that. But hopefully we get some people some help and get them the help they need, and hopefully people understand that they're not alone. And it's super sad when you see all these things not working out for people. It's super sad when so many people are depressed, and now we have COVID, which is making everything 10 times worse. And every single person, well, not every single person, but so many people deal with depression and they don't genuinely fully understand it. And I'm sure being in jail and being locked down and in the dark and everything else doesn't help or positively affect that in any situation.
Correct. Yeah, and that's what we got to focus on. We have to focus on that, because if we don't focus on that, then we're gonna lose a lot more people.
Yeah, it's super sad. And it's just, and like, there's not even really anything to say other than please, if you're feeling negative, you're feeling anything remotely close to suicidal, make sure to call the helplines, message somebody that will be willing to talk to you, and go through the steps of trying to either get help for yourself, or if somebody confides in you, make sure to try and help them and get them the help that they need as well, because there's so many good people that we lose or almost lose because of this sickness that so many people deal with and so many people just don't understand.
Correct. I agree.
Well, you brought up faith quite a bit in this episode. I wanted to ask this because personally, I don't believe, but I respect other people's beliefs. How did having a faith change how you interacted with individuals within the jail? Did it help it? Did it hurt it? I know a lot of people in jail, at least seeing from the seasons and stuff like that, are rather religious. Whether that's just them trying to find a light within being there or what, I don't personally know because I've never been. But how did that help you or affect you? And your camera went off. There you go.
Um, it helped me a lot. I was my foundation basically was Catholic. I was born and raised Catholic, and now I'm a Christian. I changed it over to Christianity, but it was when you go through an abusive relationship, as far as growing up in a hard life, you have to hang on to something and let it be God, if you will, if you feel like if that's a crutch, so be it. Because if that's what's going to get you out of something, let it be.
Yeah.
If you actually feel the being of God, or your or you're meant to be, that's meant to be. If you always hear that, that's God. It's let that be, because if that's what you need to find to change you, to get you out of there. And it's like I put this on Twitter. It's like about COVID. It's like wear a mask, because it's almost like you don't know if it's true or not. You don't know if this COVID is true or not, but you don't know if God or is right. You don't know if he's true or not. But it wouldn't hurt to help to do it. It wouldn't hurt to
Yeah.
wear a mask, or it wouldn't help to know about God. Because how about if you go up there, there actually is God, and you're like, holy shit, there is
I
a God.
think it's hilarious because that argument goes both ways, like political wise. Like
Right,
if you look at it, it's like, oh, I want concealed carry because what if? And so many Democrats are like, well, wear a mask because what if? And it's
right,
just like, okay, can we just respect both people's opinions then and just kind of do with whatever we need to do? Because in the
right,
grand scheme of things, you're concealed carry, you're probably in a pretty good spot. And if you're wearing a mask, you're probably healthy. So why sit there and worry about what other people do and just kind of understand, hey, do what you got to do, wear a mask, make sure your family's safe and healthy, and make sure you're strapped because that'll also make sure your family is safe and healthy.
right. And it's the same thing with religion. It's like, or your relationship with God is like, either you believe or not. Is it going to hurt you believe? Probably not. Um, because if you die and there's actual heaven, you go, what do? You answer to God, and you're like, holy shit, there's a God. And you're like, oh man, I'm fucked. Or you just say, hey, I'm glad I believed, because and when we talk about that, and I made a meme one time on my Twitter, and I say, how a lot of people, and it put me, Matt, I put a picture of me, Matt, up, and I said, when people say that they go to jail to find Jesus, I think I found my Jesus, and because Matt looked like
Yeah.
Jesus, it was just the funniest thing. And it's funny because when you mentioned the faith, I had, if you go back to season 4, you look at all the white crosses that everybody made,
Yeah.
that everybody was wearing. It's a little white cross. I made all those, and I made those out of my socks and stuff like that, because I wanted to show people that there's hope and faith in God, that you're going to get out of here, and just have faith, just have hope that you will get out of here, but you got to change.
Yeah.
You can't just say, okay, I believe God, and go change and do the same shit over and over. You got to change. You got to change your ways. So, if again, use God, use that as a crutch, sure, but you know, it's your choice. So it's choice.
So, what about this reunion stuff? Because that reunion episode looked absolutely tense as hell. And obviously, why don't you lay down the backstory? Because you know quite a bit more than anybody who watched the season does. Because I'm sure with interacting with all these people and stuff, you have so much more backstory than every single person that has talked about the story, heard the story, anything like that.
I don't tell anybody a lot of this, but on the reunion, it lasted 12 hours. In the reunion, what they do is they separate everybody in different rooms, all 7 of us. And when it's time to come out, it's time to come out. I never met any of them before. The only one I met was Bucci and Matt, and that's it. I never met Andrew. I never met Jacqueline. I did meet Angela because me and her were in training together. But I didn't meet anybody else. So by saying that, we argued for 12 hours, and we laughed, we cried. Um, we did everything in there. It was hard. It was
Yeah.
incredible. We had the camera crew dropping their jaws. We had everybody just shocked, because it was so intense. Um, so it was off the hook. We took breaks here and there, and when we did, we weren't allowed to talk to each other. We just had to, like, so say, like, if I went over there to Nate, hey, nice to meet you, this and that, and we start talking about a little bit of it. They somebody would come up, like an assistant would come up and say, "Hey, you guys gotta stop talking,"
Yeah.
or say like me and Matt were talking, "Hey, you guys gotta stop talking. You can't talk no more." So they didn't want us to talk because they wanted to share it all on Raw TV. So that was crazy. And and again, I mean, we were, it was like a family, but it was just so dysfunctional because we were just so at each other, and everybody just, you know, judged each other or cried for each other or understood each other, but we all did that. And that's why, you know, it was so hard. It was a hard 12 hours, you know. Just it was just like a big old meeting, an AA meeting or something. Just every, it was just crazy. It was just insane, almost fist to fist. And they didn't show a lot of that. I mean, they showed a lot of it, but they didn't show the real deal stuff. But it was a pretty good reunion. But it could have, if you would have put it on for 4 hours, people would have still been entertained. Trust me.
Yeah. Was there anything that you saw that you wished they showed? Like, did you go back through and watch your season and like, oh man, they missed this one, or they missed this. They could have showed this and it would have showed the story a little better, or anything like that that you experienced?
No, no. I didn't see my season over. I seen it when everybody else.
Yeah.
So when it came every Thursday, I stayed with them. I never went back. Believe it or not, a lot of people say no. There's no way. I was like, I trust me. I didn't go back. I watched it. I was scared every season to see how A&E was going to portray me, and I didn't know. But when they did, I knew it didn't happen a certain way. They edited a lot of stuff, but the story fit well, but they just didn't. Um, they didn't add in stuff. I'll give you a fun factor here, because I'm not going to do too many of these anymore. I think you might be. I have one more to do, but you'll probably be almost the last one I'm going to ever do this with podcasts as far, because I think I'm going to start charging people. To be honest with you, but
What's
um,
crazy is in the podcasting world, we won't jump over your story, but it's a funny little fact. They're actually trying to start charging guests to come on.
yeah, I'm
I
yeah,
thought
that's
that was super,
crazy.
super funny because it's like,
Yeah,
okay, I could understand where your publicity would help me. Like, just being honest, I could understand where any guest that I have on,
yeah,
their publicity would help me because I'm having a conversation with them. Why anybody would sit there and say, "Oh yeah, my publicity is just as much, if not worth more than yours," makes absolutely no sense to me. And it's just like, in the grand
yeah,
scheme of things, if you enjoy having conversations and you want to sit there and shoot the shit and have some fun, then shoot the shit and have some fun. If you want to sit there and offer publicity for somebody, number one, if you're requesting money to have them on, you better have a bigger fan base than them, because if you don't, that would make absolutely no sense. And if if you're going to sit there and charge one way or another, you have to be the bigger person in order for that to be worth it.
yeah.
And I just,
Yeah, and I'm not saying that I'm like bigger stuff or anything like that, or anything like that. But now it's come to a time where it does pull away from my family and this and that. And I'm already into that little area where I start to get paid now,
yeah,
for doing interviews or doing speaking engagements and doing stuff like that. And it's not like I'm big shit or anything like that, but I'm. It's almost like I've done enough to help people out, like even like yourself, just to
yeah.
put you on and help you out a little bit. I don't mind. I help a brother out, but it's getting old and it's very time consuming. So,
Yeah,
but
I don't think people understand, especially when you have somebody like yourself or Matt, Mark that I had on, or any of the people that I had on that aren't essentially creators themselves. They they're taking time out of their day in order to give you a rub. Essentially, hey, I want to come on. I want to tell my story. I want to have some fun with you. Have a conversation. Understand that and say thank you, and kind of reach out and give as much information as you possibly can, try and help that person if that's what they need, or just be an ear for them to listen and talk to if that's what they need, regardless of what happens or whatever. Or even if at the end of this is the last time I hear from you, you're a good fucking dude. And
Thank you.
and I would say that to anybody. And I genuinely think it's like I wish so many more people would actually genuinely understand that if somebody's taking the time out of their day to sit there and do a podcast with you, or you're putting work out for them, regardless of it's what I did or what you did or what you're doing currently. I just wish people would understand, hey, thank you goes a long way, and I will do that publicly. Thank you, Johnny. You're a good fucking dude.
Yeah, no, and I appreciate that, brother. I appreciate it, and that's why a lot of these my old co-cast, they don't follow back, and
Yeah.
on my Instagram or Facebook, and I usually do. I don't care. I don't care about the followers and all that stuff, and I follow back because people want that excitement to say, "Hey, I got a celebrity to follow me back." And to me, I don't look at myself like that as a celebrity, but I know I am as a TV, reality celebrity, if you will.
Yeah.
But people get happy because I even get happy when I get somebody famous, and I'm like, oh man, I get all excited because it's fun, it's pretty cool, and that they're down to earth, and that's what I am not boasting about myself, but I feel like that's what I was brought up. And I'm down to earth. I want to be real, and that's why I'm on a real shit show with you, because it's what it is, and that's what we do, and that's how you stay yourself and be yourself, and I don't want to say humble, 'cause I think Abner used those words too many times, and I just think that I know that, I try to be real, and but anyway, so let's go back to the story. What was the
Yeah.
story that
You are going to start charging for interviews.
um
Try and sit here and go through this again. Um, See, that's what real talking real shit is you just have conversations and you
yeah,
you completely get lost.
yeah,
But as I was saying, and as I told you in DM, and I'll say this publicly too, you're one of the few people, Abner as well, but he's gone off the deep end. Um, you're one of the people as well that could sit down and have a talk show like this, that could have conversations, that could genuinely have the same feeling that I have every single week, where you're sitting here talking to somebody new, and it's the greatest feeling when that person is somebody you looked up to, or somebody like last week I had Ghost from Call of Duty Modern Warfare on. I don't know if you play video games, but that feeling of just hearing the same voice that you play the character as was super cool. The week before that, I had Ronnie from Red Jumpsuit Apparatus. I don't know if you heard the song Face Down, but that was super heartfelt episode where it's just like it's super cool talking to these people that you would love to interact with. And I just
right,
wish that so many more people understood that that feeling is one of the greatest things ever, because whether they're a good person or a shitty person, meeting that person and having that interaction with them is something that nobody else really gets to understand or get.
right, and that's why I just try to be interactive, like these guys and people, just to get that excitement, just to, they took their time to watch me, so I want to take my time to, to like their picture, whatever it may be, because, you know, it's scratch your back, I'll scratch your back, and we can become friends,
Exactly.
so cool.
So, was there anything else you wanted to hit on? Anything else you wanted to talk about? I know that you've had a rough month. We were actually going to do this about a month ago, month and a half ago. Uh, Obviously, some extenuating circumstances where you definitely dealt with some crazy shit. And I didn't know if there was anything else you wanted to talk about or anything like that.
Well, I just lost a friend, and you guys all know that, Nate, um, from season 3 and season 4, he committed suicide, and me and him were real close. We're we were we would talk every day almost. We'll text each other. We'll write just bullshit each other.
Yeah.
Uh, we'll cry to each other. We were pretty, pretty good friends, and um, there's times that he pulled me out in the deep end. I pulled him out in the deep end. So we were pretty good friends, and it was hard for me, even though I'm on medication. I, when I have my medication, it's hard for me to cry.
But medication doesn't numb you. Not trying to cut into your story or
No,
feelings.
it don't. It don't. But in my case, it helps me not
Yeah.
go into deeper depression. It just kind of makes me like, okay, you know, I'm sad and this and that, but it doesn't get me into a deeper depression where I can't get myself out. So
Yeah.
that's what my medication does for me, at least. And when I found out, well, when Nate killed himself, it it took me there. That's all deep. That's all how much I hurt, because it went further, and I had to watch myself. I had to give my gun to my wife. I had to um,
Protect yourself in any way you
protect
possibly
myself,
could.
because I do carry,
Yeah.
I knew myself well enough that the medications right now are not helping me, and I had to stay away from Facebook. I had to, because it was so deep. It was so hard to write my reply back to, or just to say how my dedication to him,
Yeah.
my thank you note, if you will. It was the hardest thing ever. Um, Depression is so real. PTSD is so real. Um, and when somebody uses words to try to hurt somebody, you better watch out, because they can usually, it might happen. You know, if you're gonna say that you want this person dead, or you wish he was dead,
Especially if it's the person you're building your life around.
right?
And
Then
so
then that's
many,
then you got to watch your tongue, because you don't say it because out of anger. Anybody says anything out of anger, but when you say something like that to a depressed person,
yeah,
you are pulling the trigger, if you will.
yeah,
And then when you do that, then that's pretty sad, you know. And as much as a depressed person I am, never once I've ever had my wife tell me those words.
yeah.
I wish you were dead. I wish you would kill yourself. I wish it never, because she already knows I'm at that end. She already knows that I'm right there.
No, it's super surreal because at the same time, me and my wife deal with it. We had an episode about it about maybe 3 months ago, 4 months ago, just talking about depression, talking about mental health, trying to get me to explore my thoughts and trying to explain myself just a little better. And that's one level we have is like, if I'm down, I need you to pick me up because I'll be that rock for you. I'll do everything I possibly can for you. But if you start seeing me slump, I need you to just push me as hard as you possibly can and just lift me up and give me that stability I need because there are some days where it's just like you can only do so much, man. You
Yeah,
can only feel, you can only deal with so much, whether it's past shit, whether it's real shit, whether it's just tearing yourself apart because you can't feel anymore or
correct.
anything like that. It's just like you gotta hold yourself together and having that person in your life, that rock and that stability, whether you're that person's stability as well, it's so surreal and I thank her every day for that because it's like any day that I'm struggling, it's so surreal. It's so weird because we'll go through a hard time. I'll fall flat on my face and feel like shit. And she holds herself together until I'm better, or I hold myself together until she's better, and then the other one falls, and then we
Right.
pick each other back up. And it's just like, I wish that anybody who's dealing with this shit listens and listens to this good. If you need help, message somebody, talk to somebody, whether it's
Whether
somebody
it's somebody.
you want to actually have that interaction with or not, having that conversation, having that interaction with me, with my business Facebook page, with your best friend, with your mom, with your dad, with your significant other if they're not a negative person. I wish that so many more people would understand that there are so many people that are here. Yes, there are people that are shitty. Yes, there are people that don't understand, but there are a lot that do.
Correct. And I agree. So I so agree. You took the words out of my mouth, and that's great. And you know, it's a marriage, and it's friendships, and that's why we have marriages, friendships, you know, to help each other, because it gets worse out there. You know, not only depression. You know, that's why I talk about a lot of my speaking engagements with if you're married, you know, if you're have a temptation of another girl or another man, or if you have a gambling problem here and there, it's up to that. yourself for sure, but it's also up to your significant other to pull you in and say, "Hey, get your ass back over here. We we have a goal, of life, and we need to do this. But get your ass back over here because we're human. Where it's hard to be that. So I gotta let you get going, man.
Yep.
I have some company, but you
Not a
know,
problem, man. I won't bother you anymore. I'm gonna say
oh,
this.
brother, no, it's fine, man. It's fine. It's just, I know I've been
Yeah,
promising you. I've been trying to get on. A lot of stuff been happening over this, last month and a half. But we'll bullshit again, brother. But you know, we'll chat some more. On some some FaceTime or whatever it may be. I appreciate you bringing me on. I'm glad that you like my story.
yeah.
And it means a lot to me.
Definitely, man. As I told you before, make sure to tell it, man, because that story genuinely can help a lot of people. Thank you for coming on. If you need help with anything electronic, anything like this, if you want to start a podcast, anything, I can give you some of the background and try and help. I guess I've helped a couple people now and kind of got fucked over a couple times. And I'll throw that in there at the end. And just thanks, guys.
Agree.
Love you guys again. And have a nice day. I think we talk shit and real shit's been talked. Have a good one, guys.